2003 Hyundai Accent LC model, non-ABS. Got it centered on there. You don't want it to be uncentered or you're going to dent your thing like somebody just did. Ideally, you would have all the room to fully, put this all the way down, but you can do shorter thingies if that so suits you. I don't know why, but that thing is especially bendy today. I don't trust that part. I need to do it somewhere else. Alright, so I realize that the instruction manual says to take the screws out from here first. However, when I'm trying to break loose those things at the bottom, this whole thing slides. So I need to have some leverage here. So I'm just going to screw these back in. And then I'll do the lower things and then I'll do these. I just wanted to get a few pictures of what this looks like so I can put it back together in the same way. (2003) Hyundai Accent LC, automatic transmission, 4-door model, no ABS. They didn't get ABS until like the 2005, 2006 model. Not sure which. First thing we're going to do is break these loops. Do not take them all the way off or you will regret it. Make sure to chock at least one of your front wheels. I've got my jack stand. You do not want to support this with just the jack. This thing has really wimpy pinch points. Like, make sure you got this thing twisted all the way clockwise. It really doesn't have adequate pinch points on the bottom of the frame, because as you can see underneath this, that bottom part gets bent up a lot. So these marks right here are where you're supposed to place your jack stands. See the semicircle indentations right there? Right there. That's where you want it to go. Right. When you hear it kind of like do that pneumatic hiss, that's as far up as it's gonna go, I think. Okay, we're just going to gently lower this down onto the jack stand. Alright, so there's no weight on the jack right now. We're just going to spin all these off. I'm just going to do that off camera because it's, or not. Today we're going to be changing out the rear shock / strut. Got a Monroe quick strut. That's what I'm going to be using. The product number of it, I'm going to have to twist that in with the thingy. The product number of these is 171585. That's for the passenger side rear. You're supposed to do in pairs. I did the first one yesterday. It took like 4.5 to 5 hours because I don't know what I'm doing and it's the first time I've ever done it. That's why you don't use use your jack as a main support because I just whacked it. Alright. I have also kind of loosened this thing. I've also done evapor rust on this. You know what? I'm just gonna undo this because I don't think I'll need it for now. I've also taken off this thing. So you carefully undo this so that you're not breaking little tabs on it. And that slides out from there. You also take off the foam. So what we're going to do first is get that little piece off of the brake line because I do not want to damage the brake line while I'm doing this. So yeah, I just took that off last night or a few days ago because I just wanted to get it out of the way because I knew I was going to be working on this. Right, I also want to slide this out, but before I do that, you know what, I'm just going to undo this bolt. This is a 17mm thing. You're going to be wanting to use an impact rated breaker bar, so one that's got like that black CRV MOLLE end on the end of it. We've got an impact socket. We've got an impact socket that's going on the end of it, and I'm also going to be using the cheater bar for my jack stand to do this. So this goes on this, and I'm going to have to do this with both hands. So put your cheater pipe on first and make it easier to fit everything into place. Especially if there was a car parked right here, you'd want to do that. Alright, so it's going to make a loud noise when you first pop it loose. I, a couple days ago, treated these with evapor rust and penetrant oil. J Blaster, PB Blaster. Not JB Weld. You don't want to put PB Weld on this, obviously. Not PB Weld, JB Weld. Alright, I gotta do this with both hands. It's gonna be all creaky when you do it. Because that is gonna be the friction against rust and against the crush washer. So just expect it to do that. Alright, once it gets sufficiently loose enough, you can switch over to a 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch ratchet and loosen it up the rest of the way. I got a gear wrench, 90 tooth one, because the 120 tooth ones were difficult to find and pretty expensive. They were like $89 versus this one, which was like $42. Alright, I still need to loosen it up some more with this whole contraption. Like, I think even if I had a 1/2 inch ratchet for this, it'd still be difficult to do. Do not use a ratchet for this, just use a breaker bar. I broke my ratchet trying to do this with a ratchet. Not a gear wrench one, just a Harbor Freight one. But that was a swivel head and wasn't intended for that anyway. So I don't blame them for that, really. Okay, so now that we've gotten that bolt, gotten that bolt off, I'm going to take my little scraper thing, put it in between here, and then slide it out like that. You can see that like some of these threads, when I was doing that, got a little bit of wear on them because there's little metal shavings and stuff. So I would recommend replacing the bolts, but I don't have the bolts to replace them with, so I'm not going to. Alright, let's get this crush washer off, then the other side of the bolt, just gonna break that like I did with the other one. Okay, I think it's loose enough that I can switch to a ratchet without destroying my ratchet. Hopefully this actually is backing out. I'm still going to have to put the breaker bar on the end of this just because I think my ratchet can take it, but my muscles can't. This is a 3/8 inch ratchet too. Alright, it is just spinning in the socket, which means I'm probably going to need to do something like put the nut back on. I've been soaking these in rust, or in rust, evapor rust, to try to see if I get some of the rust off of them. Alright, maybe put this back on, tighten it back down, and do the other side too. 2003 Hyundai Accent LC, non-ABS version, automatic transmission version. Today we're going to be changing out the strut, shock, lower ball joint, and that's it really. It's going to be a lot faster than the other side. The other side took me like 15 hours, but that was like because I didn't know what I was doing and didn't really have the tools, but this time I do. So we're going to start with our 21 millimeter axle thingy. We're just going to gently break these with our 1/2 inch breaker bar. That one was not centered. Right, so I'm just going to loosen all these while it's on the ground. Yeah, you don't want to completely take these off. Like, because you don't want to risk any kind of catastrophic failure. Alright, so I've got the handle on this thing pointing towards this way because I'm going to be working over here a lot and I don't want to bump this and disengage it accidentally. This is going to bend the pinch weld on there, but I don't care because I have already messed it up down there too. I have a jack adapter for pinch weld type cars on order from Flying Miata, because that is the only company that I could find that made ones that have a groove that is deeper than the 7/8 inch tall pinch weld that my car has. What I learned yesterday was that I want to jack this up as high as possible, and really I was giving myself more labor than I needed by not having it up higher, because what I was doing is I was crouching the whole time and I just wasn't giving myself enough room. Alright, I'm going to gently lower this down, slowly. Okay, well, not my best lower. Alright, so now I'm going to completely take these off. Really, I could do this with my fingers or this. Alright, it's just completely... all we're doing is taking off the hubcap. That is the only reason why we're doing this. I might be able to get the castle nut off. Or not the castle nut, the, I think it's called a castle nut. It's the main big ol', yeah, it is a castle nut. It's the main thing that's holding the axle to the hub. So that's what we're trying to get to. The problem is when it's up in the air like this, just like when you're loosening wheel lug nuts, if you try to loosen that thing, the whole wheel is gonna turn with it. So it might be, I anticipate that it will be, but it might be that I'll have to just take out the hubcap, put the plug nuts back on, lower the tire to the ground, and then I can loosen the castle nut from there. When you got the tire on, it gives you leverage. You know, because it's on the ground and obviously the car isn't going to be rolling. The reason why I can't take the castle nut off right now is because this hubcap is preventing access to it. Oh look, there's the castle nut. So I need to get my little needle nose pliers or some kind of pliers and unbend this piece. Alright, so I just yoinked that out from the castle nut. I'm going to want to throw this out and get a new cotter pin. I found that the biggest one in here, the 5/32 inch by 2.5 inch one, that's the one that I wanted to use for the castle nut. So when you're putting that back on, try to go with that one. Alright, so this first attempt, I'm going to just try to do it without, you know, putting the lug nuts back on, lowering the car to the ground, and using the leverage of the whole weight of the car to hold it steady so that the wheel isn't turning with the castle nut. But this is my setup right now, and I'm going to try that first. 32 millimeters. That actually worked. I just did slow and steady pressure on that, and it started to turn. I've found that the whole trying to use impact force with certain tools that aren't meant with impact force does not work well. So do not do that. All right, take off the tire. I'm just going to finish unscrewing the castle nut by hand. I might just clean this with some brake parts cleaner, but really my primary task today is getting the lower ball bearing changed out. Alright, so our next step is to get the lower strut bolts loosened up. Do not put your thingy, when you're first loosening these up, on this side. This head will break off. It is just too short to hold that force. It's doesn't matter how, I guess it does kind of affect it, but these are 10.9 rated class bolts. So maybe it's just because they're made of a harder material, you know, and they have less. You know what? Let's just leave it to the scientists to figure out the shear stuff, or the engineers. But I'm just going to loosen these with a 17mm to 1/2 inch jack stand handle to give me a lot of leverage, and then I'm just going to slowly and steadily apply force to it and pop those loose on this side, and then we'll struggle to get these out. Alright, that top one didn't put up a fight at all. I'm going to use this as an extension to get to this. But in order for me to do that, I'm going to have to remove the tie rod thing, and that's going to get in the way later anyway, so I want to go ahead and loosen that. Don't loosen this. Just loosen this one down here. That's a 19mm bolt right there. You take out the cotter pin with some needle nose pliers, and then we can loosen that. If you properly torque down the castle nut that's on here, you can just pop it loose a little bit, and then it'll come off like by hand. So next thing I want to do is pop this out of here, and I want to be gentle with it. So what I'm going to do is use my jack stand, put it underneath this thing, and then just gently force it up. Don't hammer it. Okay, I had to briefly lower the thing down to as low as my jack stand will go, just so I could get this down to there. So let's try this again, because my jack stand can only go up so high. I mean, my floor jack can only go up so high. So yeah, I lowered it all the way back down to there, put it under here, jacked it up some, that made it pop, and so it popped it out. Now I've got it back under here where it's safe. I'm gonna undo this. Move this out of the way. So now I can finally reach that lower one. Because even though I've got this turned all the way that way, I still don't have enough room to get to it. Alright, let's put our 17mm back onto these, and then we'll try to do the same thing with this. Alright, that other lower strut bolt didn't put up a fight either. I think probably because at some point in the past the hub was changed out on this one, so obviously in order to do that you have to loosen the knuckle. Alright, so I'm just going to keep working on this. 17-inch impact extension, non-impact thing, just pretend it doesn't exist, and a gear wrench 3/8 inch ratchet, because this is going to take a while to get off. But I still might need my cheater pipe in order to get some leverage on this, just because it's stiff, not because it's like seized. You're going to get to a point where this is going to start turning with this. See? So now you're going to need to put a wrench on that side to brace it. 17mm, and then just the same setup. Easy. You can do this with just using one hand. So I can be my own cameraman. Okay, I can't do it with one hand. I'm going to have to hold that there. As I'm taking these parts off, I'm going to put some Evapo-Rust into a little container, then put the parts inside of there, let them soak while I'm doing this whole thing, because this is probably going to take several hours, and I might as well. All right, time to get these other bolts off. They didn't have a crush washer on this bottom one. Look at this, easy. These aren't stuck at all. I don't think I even need to replace these. These are in good shape. No squished threads or anything. I think most of the time when bolts ruin, it's because they're not, like the thingy isn't lined up like all the way. So I know you probably can't see this, but because it's almost illegible, but it says TY 10.9. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's a washer that fits behind the castle nut. And as soon as I tilted this downwards towards me, like it fell out. Lol. Alright, let's plop that into the Evapo-Rust. Just let it marinate. Soak up all the Evapo-Rust flavors. I'm going to be replacing the shocks and the struts, but so in order to do that, I need to get this thing off of there. That's a 12mm bolt. Let's see how easy this is to take off. Oh, don't even need to use my cheater pipe. I just use a zip tie to hold this thing on the other side. I don't know if I have any of these same size bolts. I did get a bunch, like in an attempt to try to replace the some other stuff that was missing. Interesting. So that has a crush washer on it. Unfortunately, the Monroe quick struts that they sent me do not include certain hardware. In fact, they don't include any hardware. They just include the strut and shock. All right. So now I'm going to get some wire. I'm going to want to get this brake caliper thingy out of the way. Probably, because I think I'm going to end up struggling if I try to just do it with that attached. So these are 17mm bolts. They do have a crush washer on them. Used a 17mm and a 1/2 inch to 3/8 inch adapter to connect it to this thing. I don't really need a 1/2 inch ratchet as long as I've got this little piece. So before I completely take this off, I'm going to put some hanger, like a wire hanger, through that top thingy there. I've loosened this one, but I haven't taken it off completely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this to our strut and loop it around and make it so that this thing is supported, because you don't want to put strain on your brake cable. Okay, I put it all the way up there. It's very out of the way now. Alright, let's finish taking off this bolt. I don't have to do the whole Evapo-Rust treatment of these, because I already took the thingies off back when I was putting caliper lube on the calipers. So I took everything off, sanded it, blah blah, and then put the anti-seize stuff on those. So these are in good shape. I'm still going to put more anti-seize on them when I put it back though. And I'm also going to scrape this with my brush, and also probably going to do that with this thing once I get the whole thing taken off. You'll notice this thing isn't falling off. That's because I have machine screws. They're still not the right size though. Oh well. I got the order of operations down incorrectly for a second. So I put my wrench over this thing. And I don't have like a long 19-inch wrench. All I've got is like this thing. And I do have some crow's feet, so I might be able to use those too. But that's a 19mm bolt in there. It actually varies by manufacturer. So I put this back up. I've got something temporarily there to hold it in place, because I'm going to be cranking on this thing in order to loosen it. Alright, so I got the CV axle out. What I had to do was push down on this and angle this thing up through here in between the strut and the timing belt cover. Now I've just got it out of the way. And Fortunately, I didn't mess up the spline thingies on that. I'm trying to take it out. And you'll notice this is now stuck on this. Also, the way that I got it out was I had to push all the way down as far as I could, do twisty, and basically you're just fighting it the whole time until until you get the right angle to where it'll pop out. I probably ought to take the brake rotor off so I'm not damaging it the whole time I'm doing this. Or not. This thing is almost ready to come off. I just need a special tool, which fortunately I have, because I rented it from O'Reilly's. Alright. So before I use this thing, I want to clean off any of the debris, the rocks and stuff that got onto it. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, those are just going to get into the threads, and then you're going to be like grinding on these things, and it's either going to destroy the threads or it's going to destroy the inside of this piece. So after I do that, I'm going to put some anti-seize stuff on it as lubricant, and then I'll go to town. Alright, so before I can get this thing onto there, I'm just going to have to cut, like I found out that you pretty much have to cut off the boot in order to get to, in order to slide this piece into there. It's just, there's too much mass in the way, you know, and you can only compress rubber so much. So I'm going to get a knife, start cutting off everything, and then I can probably fit that in there. I think I took off enough material that I could get that thing on. So now it's like underneath the part of the rubber. Can't really see it. It's like underneath the rubber, so maybe once I pop this, like I can get this whole knuckle off, and then I'll be able to take off more of the rubber and stuff, and it'll just slide off and it won't be a problem. So 19, 2 extender thingy, 2 1/2 inch to 3/8, 2 3/8. And I'm probably going to put a cheater. You know what? I shouldn't be doing this. Okay. Oh, I remember why I do this. I'm just getting it to where it's at the point where I have to use the breaker bar and stuff. I don't want to put too much strain on this ratchet. Alright, that's good enough. I'll just do this, switch over to my actual breaker bar, and finish tightening it up that way. Because what you're basically doing is breaking the seal between the knuckle and the ball bearing. Lol, I had to reconnect this and this so that I could get some leverage because this thing was trying to turn. Alright, go ahead and continue to try to tighten this thing down sufficiently to where it'll break. Alright, so now that I popped it, I'm going to go ahead and do this and undo this, get that out of the way, push this back down, and unscrew this. Alright, so now that that's off, I can just slide that stuff off. It's got a metal ring on the inside there, so that's partly why it's hard to cut it off. Alright, let's ignore that for a second. And I want to undo the screws on this, take off the rotor, clean the knuckle. A lot of the cleaning of the knuckle's already done because I did that back when I was doing the brake calipers. But I still want to clean some of this off, get it all lubed up, and then we'll be ready to put that back on eventually. Also going to ignore this. This I'm done with. Like, I'm not going to use it the rest of today. I think I'm just done with that thing. So now I can clean it up, put it back in its package, and then I can return it to O'Reilly's eventually. Not right this second. I wonder who this manufacturer is. Yeah, it's just Hyundai. Alright, so I sprayed it with I put Evapo-Rust on it, scrubbed it, put brake parts cleaner on it, wiped it down, and now I'm keeping it in this so it won't get dirty while I'm working on the rest of the stuff. It's going to stay in there for a while because I still got a whole bunch of stuff to do. Alright, let's clean this off with a brush and Evapo-Rust. Just been scraping away at stuff and scrubbing with a wire brush. I wanted to make sure I got an image of whoever this manufacturer is. That is OJZ2K510055. Okay, so now that I've evapor rusted it, and I took some sandpaper and I just rolled up a little bit of it, passed it through each one of these holes, like so. I was scrubbing the inside of these holes. Also was sanding some of the surfaces down so that it would slide a little bit easier. And now I'm gonna embark on the single messiest part of this whole process. Well, we're not there yet, but one of the most messy parts of this whole process, which is putting grease through each one of these holes. All of these are smooth bore. None of these are threaded. So we want to make sure that stuff is just all greased up through those. So I've got my 274 grease here, the Schaefer's stuff. I'm going to put it through all the holes. And I'm also going to put it on this thing, which I also sanded and scrubbed and brushed. So time to grease this up. I'm probably going to pre-grease the ball bearing before I put it in, because I just haven't been able to figure out how my grease gun works. Alright, so now I've got grease in every one of these holes and on the surfaces that the stuff will rest on. Also got it on the brake thingy that holds the brake there. So I think the next step, the thing that I've been totally not avoiding, is trying to get this snap ring off. Fortunately, I have some channel locks, even though when I use them for this... Did I lock the door? How did I manage to lock the door? No, I didn't. Where are my channel locks? Alright, so I got the big chunky channel locks, and for this, I'm going to be using the INT thing. So I'm going to open these up like that. It's on INT. I've got the I've got the 15-degree ones, I think, something like that. The silver ones, and so I'm going to be using that and just like spreading it out like that. So this releases it. This thing on the side goes back together, and then you squeeze it and it goes out. So I better put on some eye protection, because that thing can go flying. I did not get it off with the channel locks. Instead, I got it off with a hammer and my scrapey tool. I was just hitting it on the edge and underside. It was basically just held on there by rust, and there was no way the channel locks were going to get that off. So next up is our special tool that pushes on this thing and forces it down through there, and then the hardest part, which is trying to get the actual new one back on, and then the knuckle and everything. Alright, so now I've got this thing, which is a screw thingy that pushes ball bearings out, and you're supposed to lube it with motor oil. I don't have any motor oil, so I'm just going to use ATF. But I want to wipe it down, make sure there's not any like dirt and stuff like in it, like little rocks and stuff, because I don't want those scraping against it and ruining the threads or making it impossible to turn. This is the setup that I've got. 22mm, 1/2-inch breaker bar, thingy covered with ATF. This end has a little lip in it, and the screw thingy on the inside of this, that goes up. I'm sure this is going to vary from the kind of lower arm ball bearing that you have. Mine just is long enough that this works. So I know you can't really see it, but this is not hitting this piece, because otherwise it would be just trying to crush this cup. It's pushing on the screw head, on the bolt head from the ball bearing. So ball bearing, bolt, thingy that's pushing on it. This is where it's going to go down into. The reason why you can't just directly have this on this is because it's like, all right, if you're trying to move something and you're pushing on both sides, it's not going to work. So this is around the lower part of the ball bearing. It's not, it's touching the control arm. It's not touching the part of the ball bearing. So the ball bearing can move. This is the thingy, this has a lip on it that helps it fit into this. So I think that's the only piece that does that. This, I mean, you've got a lot of wiggle room, so really I could use this too. But we're gonna try this. We're gonna be wearing eye protection because who knows? Things break, things fly everywhere. I'm gonna use my cheater pipe for this too. Okay, so apparently we still got some work to do because it popped it out. It did the initial braking. Focus, please. It did the initial braking of the thing where it moved it down, but then it got to a point where it could only get so far with that cup being in the way. So now I'm going to do it without that cup. This and this are still going to be the same though. They're going to go under there. All right, let's do this. So my grease gun either broke or got jammed, so I can't use it tonight. And what I wanted to do is pre-fill this thing before I put it in. Although if I'd have done that, it still would have squirted out all over the place because this thing is going to get compressed. Like the dust cover on it, I think is going to get compressed along the way. So yes, I should have done it after the fact, but I wanted to make sure my grease gun worked, but it didn't. So that's why it's, like either way, I wouldn't have been able to get the stuff in this after it was installed and the wheel weight is on it and everything. So either way, that thing got sabotaged, but I bought a new one, a lock-in load or something, lock and lube. I got one of those, 70 bucks. Hopefully that'll work this time. Let's just go ahead and push this in. I'm going to be going from underneath. It goes up in here. Just wiggle it around until the dust cover clears there. But that is not when we're done, because we still have to push this all the way in. I want to make sure that the little overflow thing is on this side, because that way I'll be able to see it's like when it's full and when it's not. Okay, let's get this out of the way and pick out our cups in presser thingies. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to need the cup on the bottom. I've just got this thing lined up right here. If it starts slipping a bunch, I might switch over, but I think this will be adequate. So I've got the smaller cup on top. The screw is not in contact with this thing and will not be for the whole duration of this thing getting pressed. The only thing that's going to be moving is this thing. As the screw moves up though, or the bolt moves up, it's not even going to be contacting this. It should hopefully go right through that hole, not angling at all. And the hard part about this is trying to get it so it's going in straight, because if it goes in crooked, I might have to push it back out and then start all over. The way I avoided that on the other side though was I just like put the clamp on the edge and then lifted it up that way. So now this thing is flush all the way around. I just kept ducking my head under there and checking on it, and seeing if it was going in there at the right angle, and just would loosen the thing, readjust it, and then point it back at the right you know, angle it's supposed to go in, so all nice and perpendicular. Next I got to put the clip ring on, but before I do that I'm going to clean off this tool so that I can return it to O'Reilly. Alright, we are still not yet upon the hard part. That happenstance has yet to be visited upon us. Alright, so what I've got here is the O-ring, and that is going to go in this particular one right here, right above the control arm into this groove. Be prepared to fight this. I definitely wear safety glasses because this is carrying a lot of tension. Might also want to wear gloves because you're going to be doing a lot of manhandling. Alright, I got it on there. It wasn't really that hard because I'd done it before. I put some anti-seize around it just because I want to make sure it doesn't like rust on there in case I ever need to take it off again. We still are not to the hard part of this whole process yet though. Next I'm going to be putting the knuckle on and also going to be squeezing this into the knuckle. I'm going to put some anti-seize on this thing too, just in case. It'll maybe make it easier to squeeze it into the hole of the knuckle. So in order to do that, I'm just going to do the opposite of how I got it out, which is push down on that as far as it'll go and just angle it and fight it until it gets in, hopefully without damaging the threads too much. I changed my mind. I'm going for the single hardest part of this whole ordeal. Put the knuckle onto the ball joint. This is a 17mm thing for this particular ball joint. This is an H6. I'll be using it to do the final torque. Maybe. But right now I'm just doing the initial tightening before we get down to torque levels of difficult to budge. This is useful because I'm also able to see like whether or not it's rotating. And right now it's not rotating with the nut. So this thing isn't turning with, like the bolt isn't turning with the nut, which is what the other one did, which makes me think that maybe I just had a defective one. This thing is supposed to be torqued to somewhere between 44.3 and 53.1, so I'm going to set it to the exact middle of 48.2. Yeah, that was too stinking easy. I think the other one that I had was defective, which, thinking back to the little bits of either metal slivers or little bits of wire coming out of the top nut, I think that's probably what was going on. Too late now. Generally I like to leave things in a good state for the next person who's going to be working on the car, but this is not one of them, unfortunately, because I'm not taking that all the way back off just to replace it with one that's got a nut that is non-defective. Alright, so now I'm going to do the thing with the CV joint. In order to get this so it was stable enough that I could take the thingy out there, I had to temporarily brace it. So I'm just going to pop these back out, and I should be able to wiggle that in there eventually. Alright, got that on there. I'm going to grab the castle nut, put some anti-seize on it, as I put anti-seize on everything apparently now. So I think I have what I need in order to finish the rest of the tools that I got from O'Reilly out, because I might be able to put the castle nut back on and torque it down without the wheel even being on or anything. What is the average of 162 and 192? Well, those two numbers added together is 354 divided by 2 is 177. So I'm going to set this to 177. For this particular torque wrench, you slide this piece down, and then you just keep turning it clockwise until it gets to the measurement that you need. This camera really does not like the dark shooting thing. Just keep turning. Okay. Alright, so now I've got it set to 177. So it's got 175 mark, and then I've got it turned almost to 3. Lol, I just realized I can't do that with the thing loose like that, so I'm just going to wait until I've done the strut and everything. Alright, the thing that I got for the passenger side front is a Monroe 171400. And it is okay that it doesn't exactly match the other one that I had. Like, this one's got a yellow thingy, the other one had a black thingy. it really doesn't matter. Also, the boot, like, dust cover was a little bit different, but that's fine. Really isn't an important thing. Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is take the little rubber cap off of this thing, because the one that the Monroe ones don't include that piece. So I'm just gonna throw that in the box for now. The nuts that are on here are pretty rusty, so I'm just gonna replace those with the ones that Monroe sent in the box. Monroe doesn't include that for all of them though. Like one of the boxes I had didn't include these. There's a lot of grossy grease. These I think are 12. Yeah, those were 12. So I just popped those loose. For whatever reason, they decided to incorporate the bolts for the strut into this thingy. Okay. So before I completely take this off though, I'm going to relocate my hanger for this thing down to, I don't know, like the CV axle. Because that whole strut is coming out. Okay, CV axle was too low, so I just put it on this bracket here by the brake line. I've also greased up the thingies, the contact surfaces for the lower strut bolts on this part. And I still need to grease up the tops of these with some anti-seize, because those are threaded. I use just regular all-purpose grease for the lower strut parts. So, you know how I was musing about how the castle nut on there was too easy to get on? Turns out, I forgot to put in the washer. So I'm going to take this back off, put in the washer, and oh, the thing that really tipped me off wasn't just the thing being in my anti-rust bin. It was because this is too far back there, so the cotter pin holes don't line up with it. Oh, I got the strut out. So also I need to sand the top of this and just wipe it down a little bit with some Evapco rust. I'm not gonna bother greasing those holes because just I don't know. Well, maybe I will. All right, so these are apparently 13 millimeters. The original ones are like 12, but you got to go with whatever fits the strut that the manufacturer provided. Also, I'm the one who put the anti-seize down in there. That's a 19, I think. I don't know. We'll get to it later. So the appropriate torque for these is 18.5. It's the average between the two range numbers that the manual gave. Got the top mounting bolts for the strut done. Got my thingy, my brake holder thingy bolt anti-seized and de-rusted and everything. 12 millimeters. And I'm going to attach this piece down here. I do not care what the torque is. It is not essential. It's not load bearing, it doesn't move, so why would I care? It's maybe not the worst case scenario, but pretty bad scenario thing happened when I was moving this off there. One of these things slipped out of the whole weight of the caliper assembly dropped, and all of the force of it went onto this piece. So I haven't seen any leaks or anything, but I guess I'll just have to wait and see if that actually did any lasting damage. Next I'm gonna just undo this thing because I made that mistake earlier. Then put on the washer, then put the thing back, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so apparently the hub has now decided it has fully engaged and does not want to let go of the castle nut, which means I'm gonna have to just pretty much put everything back together and just wait until the tire's on, and then maybe I'll be able to stop it from turning. Alright, so I de-rusted my stuff, then put anti-seize on all of them. I've got this in position because I do not want the threads to scrape against the inside of this thing at all. I've got just some temporary holders, state-of-the-art holding rod. Alright, so I'm going to just put these in that way, and it's going to push the stuff out like as I'm putting those bolts in. Oh, by the way, these say TY 10.9, which, as we all know, stands for Toyota. Through the power of wiggling, I managed to get these in there. Just it was very smooth. I just gave it a few taps on the hammer, and they just kind of slid in there. Do not force it. You will wreck the threads on these. Just make sure they're nice and lined up. Wiggle all the parts that you have to in order to get them in there. Alright, so the manual says that if you average the ranges given by the manual, you get 60.5. So I'm going to put a wrench on this side and torque these down to 60.5. Alright, so got those torqued down. The reason why I had a little bit of trouble was because these bolts, these nuts are one way, and the reason why they're in one way is because I don't think one of these had crush washers on them, so the end of them got crushed. They got a little mushroomed out, so that meant that the socket wouldn't fit over the end of them. So I just flipped them around, and you can see this, right? Like where the lens or the filter changes, like the ISO maybe. Anyway, this is supposed to be about 18. That's the average of the range figures that the manual gives. So I'm just gonna do 18 on these, on this one, and then put the cotter pin into it. Okay, got my rotor back on without touching it. Now it's time to see if I can maneuver that thing on. I put the little screws on, and they fit fine because I think the bearing that was put on there was by whoever that manufacturer was, and it's compatible with my car, and I don't know if the other one is. Yeah, the hub, I mean, not the bearing. So I have been driving I've been driving around for a week with threaded bolts through the strut here, and as you can see, there has been no damage to the knuckle. Those, focus please, those lines in there, that's just from the thread sitting in there. Those aren't even like marks in the metal. After 1 week of driving around with threaded bolts in the strut, I'm not seeing any damage from the threads. Those lines that you're seeing on the inside, I felt the inside of that thing, and it just feels smooth, and it doesn't feel like it's scratching this up any. That said, I still think that this is a softer kind of metal. Maybe it's like iron or something. I mean, judging from all the rust that was on it, it's probably iron. So I'd rather not risk messing it up. That said, the bolt that was given to me by Hyundai, the official bolts, like the original ones that sat in there, that's what those look like. The non-threaded portion is like 1/4 of an inch too short. So some of this is still going to be riding on threads. You know, the bulk of the knuckle, you know, 90% of the knuckle is going to be fine. But some of it's going to be sitting on threads a little bit. So that was kind of annoying. This is the bolt that was sitting in there for like a week. It's immaculate. It's 10.9 metal, class metal, so it's not going to get scarred by iron. It's like so much harder than it. And that's actually the problem, because that's a harder metal, so it could potentially scratch the inside of the knuckle or damage it somehow. This is not fully threaded, so it's less likely to scratch it. If it was going to scratch it, it'd be on this side. So that's what I found out. Alright, so I'm having to hold it maybe a quarter of an inch. I like to correct for the drift. Once I start turning it to center, then it starts drifting into the other lane to my right.